Good day, everybody. Steve here. I'm delighted today to be joined by Ian Macbeth, good friend of mine from Avocado, co-founder of Avocado Properties in Berkshire. Ian, how you doing?
I'm very good, Steve. Thanks for having me on. Looking forward to this chat. But yeah, all very good at the moment. So obviously the market's keeping us on our toes, which is great fun. But I'm looking forward to next year, actually. It's going to be good.
Yeah, and it's nice. It's nice when you talk to people and they actually say that, isn't it? Because you talk to so many of the what I would call normal agents out there, and it's just, oh my God, what's going to happen? And it's doom and gloom. People who look forward to a challenging market will always succeed in it, I think. And we know from our previous conversations that's always been the case.
Yeah.
So Avocado going really well. It's now nearly in year three. I think
Yeah, kind of about 2.5 years in. So yeah, next
yeah,
year will be our third full year of figures.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah,
And
it's
and it's sort of like you've grown it very gradually, slowly. You got your initial three or four people involved, sort of building out from the hub, which is you're obviously based in the sort of like eastern part of Berkshire, Bracknell, Reading way. Um, how's that worked out growing that the way it's gone? Because I know now from that initial start, you've now gone to well into double figures. How many guys you got working with you now?
at the moment trading there's 21 and there'll be 27 by February. So six that we're onboarding at the moment. The way that we've kind of worked it has always been, let's do this organically, don't push it. We've not taken on any debt or finance or loans or anything like that to start the business. Me and Mike, we kind of put some savings in, sold the 4x4s,
Yeah.
ate some pasta for a year with not much else. Did it the hard way, but I felt that's the right way to do it because we wanted to go through that process so that we can enable and help the next partner agents that join to understand that concept and that process and not sell anyone a dream and know that you've got to do it that way. So
Yeah.
to answer your question, that the way that we've done it organically, I think has made us much stronger rather than kind of spreading ourselves too thin too quickly. We've definitely said no to more people than we've said yes to, but I feel that's the right way to do it in how we operate.
Okay. So just on that point, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because we obviously, in my one of my roles with a different hat on in the recruitment world, we speak to a lot of people, obviously, and it is sometimes, as I would say, 9 out of 10 people I talk to are saying, look, we're thinking about going down the self-employed route. I end up advising them not to do it. Why do you tell people no, this isn't for you? What are the main sort of criteria that you're looking for? Out of
Probably, yeah, it's probably three things. You can strike someone out based on finances, because if financially they can't support themselves for X amount of time, then the wrong thing to do is to put them into this role,
Yeah.
burn through 3 or 4 months worth of savings, and then be stuck for a couple of months until the first check banks. So that's the first thing. If financially you're not ready, or you haven't got someone that can go and can support you financially, family member or something like that, or you haven't got the savings, I think A, you shouldn't do it, but B, you should go through the process of spending your own money to support yourself because you know how that feels. So I think that's an important one. That's the first one that you could easily look at. I think then you've got the personality traits of someone that's, I always say some people are meant to just be a number four in a business. Kind of, they're not meant to be up at that level. They're just, it's easy to kind of follow us instructions, sit within the process. If there's ever a question they don't know the answer to, there's someone around that will give them that. And that's just meant to be, there's nothing wrong with it, but they're just meant to be a number four in a business. That's their limit and their level. And they might not have the personality to go and win business when there is nowhere to turn, no one to talk to, be resourceful, and maybe just they just miss a little bit of that self-drive to kind of do something outside of their comfort zone. That's a personality that I don't think should do it in any model. And the third being, you either fit with the brand and the way that we operate at Avocado Property, or you don't really, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. And drive's a big one, isn't it? You've got to be
Yeah.
very focused. You've got to be very driven. I know my good friend of mine started up with another business 12 months ago who, we've discussed him, and he's he's done phenomenally well, but he was always going to be that person that, because of his background, because of his psyche, his mindset, he was always going to go out there and smash it, and be resourceful and look outside the box. And I think that's what a lot of people do. It's interesting as well, isn't it? Because there are a few models out there that don't follow those rules, especially from the financials.
Yeah,
And
that's a shame. I spoke to someone last year. We probably both know who it is. I won't say it on this call, but went to one of those models, and I'd said no to them originally. I said, look, I don't think it's right. I don't think you know enough about the industry in this country in particular. And I also don't think that financially you're quite where you want to be with the numbers. And there's probably a few skills that I would learn in the background prior to going into this model. So I said, you're not quite right yet. Go do X, Y, and Z, and maybe let's have a chat in a year. 2 months later, he was doing it somewhere else. And unfortunately, I spoke to him about 9 months after that, and he was working for Wix or somewhere like that. And he'd really had a bad time. He'd burnt through a hell of a lot of savings, and it was such a shame, really such a shame.
Yeah, it's not good. It's, people need to be very, very, we work in an industry, and you talk about number fours within businesses and, other people, that people do have a limit, and that limit is I don't think it's any reflection on them as a person. I think just certain person lend themselves to doing certain things, don't they? And I think if to go out and be effectively your own boss and start your own business and have the finances behind you, a lot of people would struggle with that. A lot of people would struggle with that, and I think the advice that you give is sound advice. To be fair, it is sound advice. So take me back to the early days then, Avocado, and the vision, as I like to call it. What was your vision when creating Avocado? How did you want to be different? You came from the corporate world, residential MD of Prospect, who obviously a big concern around the Reading M4 sort of corridor. Tell me about the vision. What was Avocado? You and Mike obviously sat down and went, right, okay, we're going to start a business. This is how we want it to be. What was it?
Yeah, so I was, 36 when Prospect made me redundant. And I'd been there 16 years. So kind of that was all I knew. That was the only agents I'd worked for before. So I kind of, I understood that culture of what, a strong independent looks like, very aggressive company, classic estate agent sort of stereotype, if you like, as a brand. But something happened when I had my daughter, my first daughter, which was a couple of years before that. She's 6 now, so she would have been about 2.5, 3, I think, at the point of redundancy. You just sort of shift a little bit on your moral compass, I think, and you kind of see things in a slightly different light. You're happy about the way people are spoken to, or you're not. And I think that was the moment where I started to look at things slightly different. I started listening to a lot more podcasts. I really got into my running. So inevitably, when the redundancy came, when I made the decision to stay in the industry, because I did flicker between getting out of agency altogether at that point, because it's a difficult time for anyone, especially when you've been at the same place for so long. I felt that to do it, I had to do it in the way I visioned it being, and that meant better for people that we were working with, and people in the brand, in the culture. And really the idea for me, I was fascinated about how they do it in Australia, America, South Africa, places like that, where it's one point of contact from start to finish. And I just always felt that in any industry, the business owner inevitably will give the best service to the client because it just means more to them. So to stop the complaint issue in UK estate agency, which for the last 2-3 decades has been in communication, how do we eradicate that? This was the blueprint of how we felt we could do that, by giving the client business owner service only, and giving estate agents the ability to start their own business without investing 100 grand and taking out a lease on a high street premises. Really, that was the concept around the idea. And then it evolved into the name, the brands. It went up a few levels with pink hoodies and stuff like that. And we made a bold statement that, we won't wear suits and we won't drop leaflets. And that was nothing against the companies that do that. It was our statement of intent to the public. This is how different we actually are. And that's where it built. That was the early days.
I was going to ask you about the hoodies, specifically the pink hoodies. Where did that idea come from?
We were working with a marketing guy at the time who sort of designed the original kind of Avocado logo, and we were just having a bit of banter in his studio actually, and we were kind of talking about the social media element of things and how we were going to do it, and we were setting up some videos, and we were like, well, what should we dress like? Because you'd only known suits before. If we're not wearing suits, what do we actually wear? And then we were like, well, we want to show we're marketing professionals, so let's dress like marketing professionals. And then we said, well, we could go, what's the opposite of a suit from a navy suit from Next? And the opposite of a navy suit from Next was a pink hoodie. And we were like, well, let's get some pink hoodies and put those on. And that really does show we're not just going from A to B, we're going from A to Z as such. So that's where the pink hoodie came from, really.
And when obviously, how's that perceived when, like, okay, so your guys are going out to do evaluation, they knock on the door. Do the people know that they're going to come pink hoodied up, or are they? I asked the question. Tell you what, I asked the question. I remember about 15 years ago when I was working in agency, and we did a start-up, me and my ex-partner, and I remember knocking on a door once, and I never ever used to wear a suit and tie. I always used to be fairly casual. Sometimes it was jeans, but generally trousers and open neck shirt and just a jacket. And I remember knocking on this door, and this lady said to me one day, she went, "Yes, can I help you?" I said, "I'm Steve from so-and-so, estate agents." She went, "Well, you don't look like an estate agent." I said, "Madam," she says, "it's the nicest thing anyone said to me all day." And it just broke the ice. She just sort of laughed, and it's weird, isn't it? People's perception. So when the guys, and obviously you must have gone out in the early days. You must have gone out yourself. How was that received on the doorstep?
Funny you say it. So the truth is, we launched 6 days before lockdown. So me and Mike said, we'll wear the pink hoodies on the social media videos because it grabs the attention, it stops the scroll. On appointments, we'll dress like marketing professionals, so fairly smart jumper, chinos, shoes, that sort of look. We wanted to show that we were different, but we didn't intend to go in our hoodies. 6 days after soft launching, obviously we've hit lockdown. So we then went the best part of 12 weeks without doing an appointment, and all we did was videos of us in pink hoodies. And I was bumping into people in Sainsbury's, in the middle of lockdown when you were allowed to go and social distance and we're wearing our masks and things like that. People started talking to me. They're like, "I've seen your videos. I love what you guys are doing, blah, 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 blah." And that was even like 4 weeks. So I thought, right, we're on to the right track here. At least that's a win. And then as soon as we were allowed to do appointments again, 12 weeks later after the first soft launch, I was knocking on the door, introducing myself, and they're like, "Ian, where's your hoodie?" Like they were asking, where's your hoodie? And people would actually get disappointed if we didn't turn up in the hoodie. We only had one each at the time, obviously new start budget and all that. Couldn't wear it all day, every day. So in the end now, it doesn't really matter what we wear, to be fair. Sometimes it's what I'm wearing now. Sometimes it's the pink hoodie. Clients have just bought into the concept. And a lot of clients actually have pink hoodies as well around this area. And, it's great when you see them rocking around in your merch and stuff like that, just casually. So it's evolved. Yeah, it's been fun.
And what about the guys themselves? Are they all I've seen some of your Super Duper videos when you've got new starters and they're in their suits, and all of a sudden the next thing they're in the pink. Have they all bought into it big style, or did anyone take any convincing? Or
we've got a videographer who's doing a bit of freelance work with us at the moment. Really great guy, kind of passionate about video. And I said, "Look, come and work with me and fulfill your passion. Get out of Tesco's." So gave him his hoodie yesterday, and his face lit up when he got his hoodie. And he said to me this morning, he was straight home, fits like a glove, put it straight on. It means a lot, I think, is the answer to that question. Because if you've bought into the brand and what the idea is, to get your hoodie, especially when the agents start, because they get their name across the bottom, it's quite a special moment, actually. It doesn't mean that everyone wears them all the time, and different personalities are different markets are different, but yeah, it's like having your name above the board and your mobile number. When you put your first board up with your name on it and your first soul board, it's quite a special moment.
Yeah, and I'm assuming both the daughters have got pink hoodies.
Yeah, both the daughters. In fact, Lily's, my youngest, that was Grace's, and then it went to Miles, Mike's son, and then it's gone down to Lily. So the hoodies through the kids, they kind of almost passed down. Yeah.
Good quality stuff then. Good quality merch.
Good quality. Yeah. The avocado's getting a bit suspect colouring, but it will do for now.
All right. Listen, let's talk about marketing, because you're a great believer, you guys, in your social media presence and various and there'll be a lot of agents out there that have never really got their head around why it works as well as it does. So what was your thinking behind that, and where did that thinking come from?
I mean, I'd seen social media in action from where I was before, because I used to have quite a strong influence on the marketing budget and department, and we played and practiced with a few things where I was previously, and you could see the influence of it. I think also just a bit of personal development and education and learning new things. You could see the future of how the world was evolving, and the fact that estate agency just seemed to be getting left further and further behind everything. I looked at the ROIs, on figure sheets. I can see the ROIs behind a leaflet drop versus Google search or versus a Facebook campaign. I'm an analytical person as well as a creative person. So I saw the numbers. I knew that it was a FOMO thing, was really how we hadn't evolved as an industry into social media dominance. So effectively we said, well, that's a differentiator again. For us, we can get our brand out there fairly quickly through the presence of social media, and video trumps everything on the algorithms. So that was the key thing for us, is we knew Facebook and Instagram, LinkedIn, they want video. They don't want photos of houses and floor plans. They want video. So, that was the key thing. And if we were going to put our faces out there to the public and show that we were the single point of contact from start to finish, we wanted to show familiarity. So, whether you look at the Google element of things, of kind of flipping from unfamiliar to familiar, trust element of purchase, then that was the buy button we wanted to press, was familiarity across the potential clients. So we just did loads of video. I wrote 100 blogs before we launched. They were all then scripts for videos. I probably used 25 of them in the end, and that was the start of creating video, really, and a personal brand as well as a company brand, I guess. Yeah.
And again, have all your guys really bought into that?
Yeah.
I mean, I know, speaking to obviously Andy, my brother does some new build stuff with you, and his sort of social media presence, if you want, has massively grown. I mean, he was never one for Facebook or LinkedIn really, but now, especially with the other bits and pieces he's doing, he's really out there. So there's obviously an influence as the guys join your business, that rubs off, or is it more a case of, listen guys, you have to do it this way, this is the way we want you to work, what we want you to be working?
The way it works with the agents is the same way it works with the public, is because they watch the videos, whether it's me or one of the other partners, the new agents that contact me, they've been in the wormhole, they've watched the videos, they've been in the algorithm, we're up on their feeds. So because they've seen it, they've heard it, they've watched it, by the time they actually get to me and ask the question, 9 times out of 10 they're ready to rumble at that point, because they've already got the answers to the questions. And that's the same with the public. Our ultimate goal with marketing, as it should be for anyone really, is an uncontested client. And we always talk about that a lot, is an uncontested valuation is your ultimate goal. Absolutely. So, that's the way we look at it really, is we never want to knock on the door and kind of say, hi, I'm Ian from Avocado Property, and wife turns around and says, honey, the estate agent's here. It's Ian, come in, like they know us. That's the big difference that social media video gives you.
Yeah. Do you get many? Do you get a lot of valuation requests from your social media presence and from what you do out there? Do you get any? Or do you monitor that? Are you aware of? I'm sure you do.
Yeah. I mean, the first year, that's the only place we put money was into Facebook, into Meta Business Suite, as it's known now. Yeah. So, that was the launch of our business, was social media in its entirety. We didn't put any money into Google search. We've never dropped a leaflet. I've never knocked on a door. So everything was purely down to social media content, paid social media, not just organic. but that is the premise of, you know, where the vast majority of business. We now get a lot more recommendations. So to put the ROI and the measure into it, do you measure the recommendation as a recommendation, or it was a recommendation from a social media lead originally? So was it social media? It's hard at that
it's
point.
difficult. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
But,
listen, it's where it originated from, I suppose, isn't it? You've got to measure that without a doubt.
and if we ever said that, it all originated from social media.
Yeah, I'm sure. So listen, the $64 million question. All right. Will social media advertising and marketing ever allow agency to move away from utilizing the portals?
If you put the portals into a single bucket, then I think there will always be a portal. Do the portals become one place with other little frilly things around the side? I think that's the most likely thing. I can't see Rightmove ever being removed from the equation, or if it isn't called Rightmove, it's something that's bought Rightmove and it's the equivalent of. Do we see Boomin come in, come out? Do we see Zoopla potentially come in, come out? Something else, you know, the other one that's knocking around there that escapes me at the moment, on the market, we might see those come in and come out, but I think there will always be a portal. How it looks at the moment, it might be that it's slightly different. You know, the Rightmove might not be the Rightmove that we know now. It might be a slightly different version in the future, but I think there'll always be something available, a single place for everyone to see the property, because there's a place for it in the market, isn't there? So,
absolutely. Listen, it was a devil's sort of advocate question, to be honest with you. It's just, you know, it's a situation where there are a lot of people obviously very unhappy with what they have to pay these guys. They do obviously have, you know, they've got control of that particular part of the marketplace, and it's, you know, listen, we saw obviously, didn't we, when COVID kicked in initially, you know, they were very, very reluctant to do anything about their fees, weren't they? And then had to backtrack. And listen, you know,
I'm not a fan of how they treat estate agents, but it's a love-hate relationship both ways, isn't it? Because estate agents have tried to sort of create the boycott Rightmove campaign. So it's not a friendly environment, it's a hostile environment. But again, it just comes down to the ROI. Take the ego out of the equation. Does Rightmove generate you business and help you grow your pipeline and your profit share? Yes is the answer, and anyone that says no is lying. So you know, that's the way I look at it. Is it's a tool. Use it as a tool. Don't get caught in and upsold to all of their little whistles and bells and you know, products, because you don't need any of those in reality. I think someone asked me if we could get a premium listing for one of the properties, and I found out it was 60 quid. I said, do not bother with that. You don't need 2 extra photos on a Rightmove thumbnail. Put 60 quid into Facebook on the amazing video you've made for that client. That will increase the eyeballs on that property, not a premium listing.
No, exactly. Okay, mate. So talk to me about where you think you said you're looking forward to the next 12 months. I know there's a lot of agents out there who probably won't be. What do you see happening in the market?
Well, I mean, what we're seeing at the moment, even since the 3% base rate, you know, change, what we're seeing at the moment, as of this morning, Leeds, NatWest, HSBC, Accord, all dropping rates. You know, Accord dropping buy-to-lets, Halifax dropping first-time buyer rates. I think within the next couple of weeks, rates will be back starting with a 4. At the moment, they're low 5s. They've gone from 5.6 to about 5.1 in the last 3 weeks as sort of baseline rates. So I think by the end of November, it will be 4 something, if not sooner. Once we get mortgage rates starting with a 4.99 or something like that, we're just back into a normalized market at that point. Our property is going to sell in 6 hours? Probably not. Our property is going to sell in 6 weeks? Probably. So I think that's the market we're entering, which might mean that there's a bit of a correction on some of the inflated prices further. I think there's already been 5 or 6% this year, but at the end of the year, it will look like a 6% increase, but actually it was a 12% climb for 6 months and a 6% drop for 6 months.
Yeah.
But next year, maybe we'll see 5% shaved, something like that. Maybe as much as 10, but it's still in this perspective of the last 36 months, it will be up. And then it will bounce back with a vengeance as soon as the rates start dropping a little bit. So I just think it's a normal market, a new version of normal, granted. But for estate agents, if you're doing viewings, you've got an opportunity to capitalize on or fail. If you're doing offer negotiating, there's an opportunity there to capitalize on or fail. Yeah. If you're in the living room, there's an opportunity to do the right thing or fail. And they're the three areas in which the good will win and the average will unfortunately become bad or out of business or out of jobs, really.
As has historically happened.
Exactly that. Yeah, exactly that.
Yeah. And let's be fair, the interest rates have been falsely low, not just in the UK, but worldwide since the downturn in 2008, 2009, haven't they? So all we're basically doing is going back to what interest rates were prior to that. I mean, you're too young, but I remember my first house I bought up in Owlsmoor, up in Fakenham Way, which you'll be very, very, very familiar with. And the interest rate then was 15%. Remember them? You probably heard the stories about the Myris stuff and all that sort of thing, and it was absolutely horrendous. I mean, I remember selling my house, and it was a 2-bedroom house, and it was 70 grand. I sold it for in 1989, and I sold it to a friend of mine, which was the worst thing I could have possibly done. For 6 months later, he had to give the keys back. Yeah, it was just absolutely horrendous. So I mean, that worked its way out. That worked itself out, and I think interest rates that we're seeing now are basically, we're just going back to traditional interest rates that were always there prior to the turn down or the global meltdown in the late noughties. But yeah, listen, I think at the end of the day, the great agents will stay very, very positive. And as you quite rightly said, those who think that it's all doom and gloom. And I saw a quote from somebody the other day, and it was actually from someone fairly close to where I live. And they were talking about the ex-chancellor. I don't know if it's the ex-chancellor or the ex-chancellor, Kwasi Kwarteng, if I've said his name correctly. He was doing a visit round here, and somebody from a very well-known corporate had said, I don't know what he's done. We're never ever going to sell houses in this market with these interest rates, blah blah blah. And I remember I actually found the quote and put it on LinkedIn and went, "What chance have the public got if this is your estate agent?" So it's
unbelievable. It's unbelievable. It goes back to the marketing thing, Stephen. And for the estate agents, what do they do next year? That message. There's 3 things that I always say from a marketing point of view. If there's a business owner watching, this video, or someone in agency, there's 3 things you have to think about with your marketing. What's your message? Who is it for? And what's the plan to get those people to hear it? So what are you going to say, and who are you? Who do you identify as a brand and as a business? Yeah. And then who is that for? Who's your ideal client, and who are you talking to, and how do you get it there? And in next year, that 3 sort of prong process, if you like, to estate agents marketing, if they get that right, they will have one of the most profitable years they could ever have in reality, because it's there to show the worth of an estate agent. The last 2 years, anyone could have done it. Yeah. And vanilla could have worked, but you can't be vanilla in a market like we'll go into next year. And if you follow that process, who's your perfect client? What do you identify as an agent? What's your differentiator? How is your personality different as a company and your culture? And then how are you going to systematically get that out there? In what process? Is it social media? Is it mail outs? Is it email campaigns? Is it nurture journeys? Is it leaflets? What is it? And if you follow that process and you do it right, then your clients will arrive at your door and you will win the business. And that's the big thing for next year, that people haven't had to worry too much about the last couple of years. But, we've learned that from starting a business in the middle of lockdown, really. And that will stand us in good stead for this market, I think.
Yeah. Cool. Great stuff. Okay, listen, if you've taken the time to watch this video, fantastic advice, mate. Thank you very much for your time. It's always great to speak to you. We will catch up again, no doubt, in the next 12 months. We can have a look back and see whether we were sort of right, or what went on with the markets. But continued success with Avocado. You know, great business. Obviously, it's very local to where I am, so I'm very aware of what you guys are up to. And yeah, continued success, mate, and all good. And let's talk again soon. Thanks for your time today. And
yeah, appreciate it. Yeah, I hope everyone enjoyed it, and we'll catch up soon, Steve.
Absolutely, bud. All right, mate. All the best.
Cheers.
Cheers.